Hello, everybody. My name is Roy Nemer of Wrestleview.com. I am joined by none other, the one, the only, the living legend himself, Mr. Mike Tedesco. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, Roy. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. It was an interesting pay-per-view, to say the least.
To say the least, yes,
Yeah.
indeed. It's like I don't want to start off on a sour note, but man, I remember a time when Hell in a Cell would just make you feel a certain way, and I couldn't drag myself to watch this show tonight. It was so tough.
Yeah, it was. To be fair, and I guess for those unaware, so I covered Hell in a Cell. Mike, Happy Father's Day, Mike. There you go. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, sir.
Forgot about that. Happy Father's Day. So, Mike, you started watching around the Alexa Bliss match, right?
Yes.
So,
and I caught highlights of everything else beforehand.
Yeah. See, the good part of the show, or the really good part of the show, was everything before the Alexa Bliss match. So unfortunately for you, you started watching when the show was kind of going downhill.
Great. You know what? Like I've been having that luck with wrestling lately. Although I gotta say, it was a pleasure to cover SmackDown this week. An absolute pleasure.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it was. Now you know what I'm not gonna say what I go through, but I guess the enjoyment I get out of covering it.
Well, it's a really easy watch. Like there's no question about it. Like there's definitely issues on the show. I don't think their undercard is that great. The main event scene is excellent. Well, not the scene really, but like the storyline with Roman Reigns and the Usos and that whole family dynamic and Paul Heyman doing his thing, and we're building up to something bigger in the future, potentially John Cena or The Rock or both, or Brock Lesnar again. There's some things that are being built up. So you can see those foundations being laid, and you're excited about that. And then there's things like Otis, that's like, and General Sneeze or Commander Knees or whatever his name is. That's just like, oh, me. what is Babatunde doing on SmackDown?
But it's a 2-hour show, so it's relatively easy to get through.
Easy to watch because nothing has time to drag.
Yeah,
that's the best part. It's like, did I need to watch Commander Aziz? No, but it didn't last. It wasn't like a 20-minute match. It wasn't like watching Elias versus Jackson Riker.
Oof. Yeah, we don't get those fillers on SmackDown.
But I gotta tell you, but they maximize their time on that show. Like, you have a battle for the crown with Shinsuke Nakamura and King Corbin, which was just a lot of fun. And that guy Rick Boogs, and like, what a great pairing. Like it just seems like they're having fun on that show. Like there's like such a difference between like the two rosters, and like a legitimate difference. Like you can actually see one roster is actually enjoying themselves, and the other one decidedly doesn't seem like they are. I don't think anybody's really their time on Raw right now.
No, and honestly, aside from, and we're gonna get to it in just a couple of moments, but aside from the main event between Drew and Lashley, everything else from Raw tonight just kind of, dragged and kind of sucked, to be honest. I thought everything from SmackDown, I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but I really thought everything from SmackDown tonight was an easy watch. It was a good watch. I know you missed it, but the opening match, the Hell in a Cell between Bianca and Bayley, for me, is probably the most enjoyable, or one of the most enjoyable matches of the year. Just because they utilize Cell properly. They used the weapons, everything. They used the hair. It was fun. It was a good match. The opposite of, I'm not going to say the opposite of the main event, because I thought the main event was solid. It just ended poorly. But it was as bad as the main event ended. That was like the complete opposite of how things were in the ending for Bianca and Bayley. So if you have some time, go back and watch it. And if you don't like it, I'll cover Raw.
I don't like it. I can tell you right now, I'm not gonna like it.
I don't like it. But
actually, what's funny is when we were watching the highlights, Victoria was saying like, it's kind of amazing, like that transition that Bayley made from being like, the girl next door or whatever she was doing, like the eternal kid, to like what she is now. And like I saw a couple of really good just some stiff shots she was taking, the KOD on the ladder, the kendo stick bridge that she got slammed through. She's a very, very I don't think she's getting as appreciated as she should. I think she's a really underrated talent, and she's reinvented herself, and only the really good ones can truly reinvent themselves. Some people try for, a different gimmick and stuff like that, and it doesn't work out. They try to add different layers. She's been so successful, with this new, kind of like just grating, annoying heel kind of thing, with the face peering all over the Thunderdome and the laughter and the ding dong dummy or whatever she's doing.
Yeah, the ding dong hello.
Yeah, ding dong hello stuff. It's just she's doing a great job. I mean, that's a complete and total reinvention.
Yeah, absolutely. She went from the hugger and she had the hugger for several years. Then finally, they turned her heel, and when they turned her heel, it was great. And then it just kind of, it sucked, in my opinion. I didn't like it when they paired her up with Sasha Banks again. I didn't really enjoy that whole tag team and feud. But the second they ditched Sasha Banks, Bayley proved herself once more that she's one of the best talents that they have when it comes to the women. Her, along with Asuka and Charlotte, in my opinion, are what's holding the division together.
I think they're the only ones in the division.
But we're not the only ones in the chat, though. They might be the only ones in the division. We're not the only ones in the chat. I see a couple of people here. I see Daniel. I see Andrew. I see Mr. TRM. I see Jamel. We got Tyler Upson. Tyler, and I'm just going to bring this comment up really quickly. He says Pat McAfee's a legend. I loved him tonight. I tweeted about him. I think he's the best announcer they have on the show. I think I mentioned that to you, Mike, as well. I enjoyed it. But, so we got a couple people in the chat. Mike, let's get to it. Enough of the negative. What did you like?
What did I like? Let me go through this card, and I'll pick something out. Because there was some good on this card. Let's see. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens was really, really well done. I thought it was just, these guys have had 10,000 matches together probably, and each one is different and unique, and they know each other so well, and because they're such good friends, they give so much to each other in their matches. I just really enjoyed watching a nice, simple wrestling clinic, with some good selling, some good storytelling, and it was just a war. I love the finish. What a hard fought finish for Sami Zayn. I had a couple land sharks today for Father's Day. You know how it is, and. I just thought it was an excellent match. I was watching that and I was like, this is how wrestling should be. This is fun. This is a lot of fun.
Everything in that match made sense. There was a reason behind it. It wasn't just, we're going to do a bunch of moonsaults or suicide dives just for the sake of it, because that's not necessarily what we got. And I would put that up there as one of my favorites. Although the one thing I would say is we've gotten so many of these matches, like you said, that I'm just ready for them to, I'm ready for creative to kind of just split them up. It's good. We've gotten, Sami and Kevin Owens just a bunch of times. I'm happy with it. Good match tonight. Let's split them up and do something else with them.
Oh, I'm even talking about when he was El Generico and he was Kevin Steen. They've just been doing this forever and ever and ever. And they didn't waste anything. That's a really good point. It wasn't just suicide dives for the sake of suicide dives. Sami Zayn hits him with the flip dive, and usually that's just a throwaway move, right? It just happens. And but this time Kevin Owens is selling his wrist, he broke his wrist. Yeah. And I'm not kidding you. I was sitting there did he break his wrist? Really? That's how much they
sold it
to that match. They did it was just really, really wonderfully done. It's just, following a match like Alexa Bliss and friggin' Shayna Baszler, and then coming back with that, big save, big save. I needed to see that because it's I saw the very worst of professional wrestling in 2021, the very, very worst. This is just bottom of the barrel garbage. And then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn probably watched that abortion or of whatever wrestling is, and said, we got to give him a good one, and they did.
Yeah, no, they did. And to add to what you mentioned regarding that flip by Sami Zayn, where we thought Kevin hurt himself, even Sami Zayn sold it very well, because usually you'll get the flip and the guy just stands up as if nothing happened. Well, yeah, you just landed on the outside. That's still supposed to hurt you. That's why it's called a high risk move. Like, yeah, it's hit or miss. You land it or you don't, but it's still gonna hurt. And he sold it. He sold it well. And that was one of my favorites. Let's run through the card really quickly. I completely forgot to to do that. So we started off the show with Bianca Belair retaining her SmackDown Championship against Bayley in a Hell in a Cell match that had no interference whatsoever. So shocker.
No, how about that?
Shocker, yeah. After that, another SmackDown match, 2 in a row. Seth Rollins finally gets his win versus Cesaro, and this feud does not look like it's going to be ending anytime soon. I'm not sure how much you've been watching SmackDown, Mike, but they've kind of been milking this since before WrestleMania.
No, I know.
Yeah, the match itself was good. Don't get me wrong; it was enjoyable. It was fun for what it was. But again, they got to end this. After that came, I want to say, what was an abomination to professional wrestling. Alexa Bliss.
Nice.
Yeah, mind controlling or hypnotizing Nia Jax, and no one's able to make eye contact with her. Whatever it was, anyway. So she got the win versus Shayna Baszler. After that, as you mentioned, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Then we had the Raw Women's Championship match, which ended in a disqualification because the cover of the table hit Charlotte Flair. So apparently that constitutes as a DQ now.
That's just okay. We'll talk about it. Sorry.
Well, we're gonna talk about it. And then we had the main event.
I'm so defeated by that. Like, it's just it's absurd.
Your brand, Mike, your Raw brand completely let us down.
It's not my brand. It's my brand.
Well, the reason why, for those of you watching, why I'm obviously we're joking around, why I'm calling it Mike's brand is, if you haven't already, make sure to check out Mike is on Mondays. Mike and Victoria Tedesco's lovely wife. They cover Raw, so you don't have to. They talk about it, so make sure to check them out every Monday night immediately following Raw. Trust me, you're missing out if you're not.
We do have a lot of fun. We do have a lot of fun.
Yes, and see, just to prove it right here, Daniel even wrote, Mike loves Raw. There you go.
Daniel's a big fat liar.
Oh, that's a big accusation right there.
I love the post Raw show. I love Raw is like that landmine that I have to just bypass in order to get to the really fun stuff, which is actually getting on the podcast and chatting with everybody on that subscribes to our Wrestleview channel and chatting with Victoria about wrestling. I still like talking about wrestling. I cannot stand watching.
It's Raw itself lately has been not too good. Let's put it that way. Not too good. Speaking about not too good, let's get it out of the way. We have to. Mike, the floor is all yours. Take it.
What's there to say? I mean, the banner says it all right there. Alexa Bliss mind controls Nia Jax, mind controlled Shayna Baszler. It's like you're watching this match, with Shayna Baszler, who they set her up last year to be a monster. They had to run through the Elimination Chamber, eliminate all 5 women. Just ran the field, just killed everybody. Put her in there with Becky Lynch. Of course, she loses and was never the same since. But I mean, like, this is just such a drop off for her. Not that like Shayna Baszler is like a difference maker or anything like that. I don't think even if they booked her right, it's not gonna be like, gotta watch Shayna Baszler. But wow, I mean, they couldn't have just they couldn't have picked like Nikki Cross for this, or like Dana Brooke to like feed to Alexa Bliss first. Like, we haven't seen Alexa Bliss have a match since February, and so it's like, oh, we got to feed her Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. That's just strange. And then it's like, you know, I was saying on post Raw this past week, I've lost count of how many goddamn tricks Alexa Bliss can do. How many superpowers can you give to one fucking character? It's absurd. You know, it's like she can sweat black ink from her head. She can throw it up. She can make other people throw it up. She can make fire emit from the stage. She can make a fucking puppet appear in a mirror and scare people. She can, you know, just appear out of nowhere and disappear. Now she can fucking mind control people. This shit's gonna die on the road. I mean, they're going back on the road in a month, in less than a month, and they think this shit's gonna work. Oh, well, people watch it on YouTube. Yeah, they're watching it, and I guarantee people are hate watching it. Yes, and to Vince McMahon, any viewership is good viewership. It's like, well, it's like people are watching this and are like, God, wrestling is fucking stupid, and I'm glad that I don't watch this anymore while watching it, of course. But you're not going to bring people back with this. It'll get people looking for a little bit because it's so absurd, but it's not sustainable. It's just not. Like the Bray Wyatt stuff dried up. Like it wasn't interesting anymore. Like when he came back all burned up, people were interested in that. Then it fell off again. Who cares?
Yeah, they've completely. I mean, I don't even know what more to add. To be honest, they've completely fucked this up from the very beginning. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not going to say intrigued, but I guess the word is intrigued. I was very interested in seeing what they were going to do when they put Alexa Bliss with Bray Wyatt. You know, I'm like, okay, maybe this changes the Wyatt character a little bit, makes it more, you know, believable, whatever you want to call it. But they just like her and Randy Orton for me was, I mean, you know it better than me. That was unbearable. That was the worst fucking shit I've ever seen in my 25 years, 26 years of watching this stuff. I can't.
I have a few more years on you, and it still is the absolute bottom of the barrel. The shit that you find, like that gross mildew and film under the refrigerator. Yeah, it's
that. Like I remember, obviously, look, we all kind of look back fondly at the Attitude Era and the gimmicks and the characters and this and that, and there was some weird shit done back then. Obviously, the hand, and even I'm a diehard Undertaker fan, but you know the whole Ministry of Darkness, everything. Even that was a little bit, you know, you got to suspend belief. But nothing compares to this shit.
No,
with Alexa.
Well, especially when they're trying to push it as like, you know, so many like realistic characters, and everybody's got like, you know, something that somebody can connect to. What are you connecting with on Alexa Bliss?
Nothing.
What are you connecting with on Bray Wyatt? Nothing. Like there's. You know, there was some stupid stuff in the Attitude Era, and like, you know, the stuff got so dumb that even Undertaker, who was doing the dumb stuff, was like, you know, I think it's probably the one time in history that somebody had their pec torn completely off the bone, and they're like, good, thank God, because now I can reinvent myself, and he did. He came back, you know, he tore his pec off the bone in like September '99. He was gone for almost an entire year. He came back in May 2000 as the American Badass. I don't think anybody was happier than Mark Calloway to have gotten injured, because they were just going to keep pushing more and more of that like Black Wedding bullshit and Big Show in the desert with the snakeskin boots and the motorcycle thing, like that weird ass promo that they cut. That it's like, you know, like even the performers are like, this is bad. Like I don't understand. Like it's. The input from the performers is so minimal now. Like they can't, you know, if you speak against it, you're gone. You're just gone. You know, they're and everybody's so afraid in this company to speak up or say anything, because look at all the people that do speak up. They're gone. They just go.
Yeah. And the problem with this now is, forget about speaking up, which is obviously a very big thing, because like you said, now the wrestlers of the talent have pretty much no say, next to nothing.
Right.
But if you're Alexa Bliss, you're looking at your character, you're looking at yourself in the company, saying, where the fuck do I go from here? Like, you can't go back to being the joyful Alexa Bliss or whatever, the sexy Alexa Bliss, whatever she was doing.
Right.
Now it's literally, well, I'm with the Fiend or was with the Fiend, and that's it. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to reinvent this? You're going to ship her to SmackDown and act as if nothing ever happened?
Right, like what are we gonna have, like Chucky come out and like, you know, the OTPC Dembala and like have thunder over the thing, and then she gets exorcised from her demons or whatever. It's like, you know, like you're right. I mean, like that's such a what a great salient point you just made there. Like, how do you even undo this at this point? How do you undo it? You know, like the only thing, I think Daniel's right. You know, she has to take off for like a year but I don't know if you ever can erase the stink of this character.
No.
The Fiend, everything it's touched has died. Everything.
Yeah.
I can't think of one good feud that the Fiend had that the person that he was going against came out the better for. Braun Strowman was a champion, a world champion in 2020. Braun Strowman faced the Fiend throughout his entire championship reign, and in diminishing returns in each match. And now Braun Strowman is not employed by the company anymore. He was so diminished. And I'm not saying it's all the Fiend's fault. There was other bad booking that went on with it as well, including Raw Underground and all that crap. But it certainly didn't help. And they looked at Braun Strowman as a guy like, well, he's disposable now. Like he's not a commodity that we can do much more with. And you know, that's a direct, you know, relation to the Fiend, not entirely the Fiend, but that was a huge piece of it.
That was terrible. And what hurt, and obviously, look, I'm not going to get into COVID. COVID hurt everything and everyone, so I'm not even, you know, trying to say anything about that. But COVID and being in the Performance Center, being in the Thunderdome, has allowed them to not only jump the shark, but completely fucking wreck the entire script. Because if you look at the crap that they have done since COVID, specifically with the Fiend and Alexa Bliss, it makes no sense. You had the Fiend randomly pop up in the audience during the PC era. You had the Fiend on fire. You had WrestleMania, whatever the hell that was. You had Randy Orton spitting up blood. You had Alexa Bliss in her matches randomly change outfits. You come back from commercials, she dresses something else. This has completely hurt the company, but this has hurt Alexa Bliss, in my opinion, practically to the point of no return.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. You know, like, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, you know, I remember talking on Post Raw and a couple other shows about, you know, like this is like the companies, you know, like they can think outside the box and try to be as creative as possible, but you know, you have to stay within the confines of what works in the genre, and this is not working within the confines of the genre. This is everything that it's not. It's, you know, you can't have, you know, on the same show, you know, trying to like book like a realistic feud with Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley and have a horror movie on the same show. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. They've tried to, you know, Vince hates wrestling. You know, like I really do believe that Vince McMahon hates professional wrestling. That he wants it called sports entertainment, and you know, completely disassociated with whatever it is that AEW does and and Impact does and Ring of Honor and New Japan. That's wrestling, you know. But here, they're having an athletic, you know, spectacle that resembles this weird kabuki theater, but we're going to reinvent the rules and we're going to reinvent every trope, and it just isn't working. You know, ever since they started doing this stuff, it just keeps getting worse and worse. The feedback gets worse and worse. And it's like, yes, people will tune in for the outrageous stuff, but you don't want them just tuning in for that. You want them to tune in and stay tuned in because they're excited about something. They haven't created, you know, other than Roman Reigns and, you know, and like now they're botching up Drew McIntyre for whatever friggin' reason. You know, they haven't really created like real stars, and you know, the storytelling is at an all-time. This is worse than 1995 by far. This is the worst storytelling that in this company's history. And I don't care. I will fight anybody who tries to tell me that it's not, because this is the worst. This is as bad as it gets for at least on the Raw side. This is it. Go on.
Yeah, no. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, because you mentioned it was worse than Raw '95 or WWF in '95. You know, back in those days, yes, you had cartoonish characters, right? You had Bastion Booger, you had like Duke the Dumpster Droese, you had whatever Henry Godwin and all that shit. But to a certain point, some of them got a reaction, and for the most part, a lot of them were just the undercard. Now it's nothing is working aside from Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, and even then they're beginning to completely fuck him up. Other than that, everything else is trash.
Right.
So you kind of have, and the problem with them that I don't understand is they have characters, or they have characters that are established, right? Like Orton is there, Lashley's there, Drew, whatever. They had Strowman, but they're not doing a good job. Like everything is bad. Everything. Yeah. I'm really trying to think of one good thing right now outside of the main event scene. I can't
because they're not booking long term. Quite literally, the only thing they're booking long term is Roman Reigns, and hoping that they can get a deal with Dwayne Johnson, hoping that they can get Brock Lesnar to come back, hoping that John Cena has a hole in his schedule and isn't doing a movie where there's a huge insurance policy on him where he can't wrestle. They're hoping for these things. There's nothing set in stone, but they're booking him as if they are going to get it eventually, and maybe they do have a deal in the works. We don't know, but like that's the only long-term booking. Monday Night Raw, every week you can tell it's just the script is torn up that day, and they're writing it as the show is going. So they're just scripting encounters rather than scripting stories. It's just like, okay, tonight this person's going to do this with this person, and we'll figure out how to get out of it next week. That's quite literally all they do. It's just try to figure out how are we going to get out of what we just did tonight, because we had no real plans to begin with.
No, exactly.
And they're going on the road. They're going on the road. And what stars are people going to come out to see?
I mean, Daniel brings up one here, which I guess he says RKO will get a cool reaction, I hope.
Yes, absolutely they will. Absolutely.
They broke up the Hurt Business, which I think fans liked or fans enjoyed. Well, that's gone.
Yep.
If you're looking at the women's, if I'm being honest, I don't give a flying fuck about Rhea Ripley right now. Nothing against her. Don't get me wrong. Nothing against her, but I just can't get invested.
She's booked horribly. She sucks.
Yeah. I can't get invested. Tag team champions. Is it still AJ and Omos?
Yes.
There you go. My question right there just kind of tells you what I think about that. It's so bad. And like you said, they're going back on the road. And I was truly hoping that tonight's card or tonight's, event would kind of give us an idea of where we're going and where everything is going to lead to. It's not looking pretty good.
No, it really isn't. And the tickets haven't moved the way that they thought they would. And in big markets, like, Chicago, like in Texas, like they haven't moved, like they have in the past. People aren't just falling over themselves to see the almighty WWE now. And you have to think some of these markets haven't had them in 2 years, because it wasn't like, they were there in 2020, so like the last time they would have seen them was 2019. And now they're back on the road, and, people just aren't coming out in droves to see them. And Andrew Elder, I was just going to make that damn point, but he's ahead of me here. Women's tag team titles with 2 tag teams, Natalya and Tamina and Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. That's it. Those are the only 2 tag teams.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say, if let's say WWE is heading to your neck of the woods, all right? They're going. Would you seriously buy a ticket to go see this here? A table cover causes a disqualification in the Raw Women's Championship.
I would get the ticket, because I would expect, getting the ticket, that they wouldn't give you a finish like that. And then after seeing this, I would be absolutely, if I paid for a ticket in that was a finish, I would be furious. I really would, and especially because it's like, okay, you know, I thought they did that. Okay, they don't want to do any title changes on the show because I thought in the main event, you know, they booked themselves in a corner. Guaranteed, Drew McIntyre will be going for it again, you know, at some point because they're gonna turn him into a whiny little bitch. Eventually, it's like, oh, you cheated, you know, there was supposed to be no interference, and MVP interfered, gave us the exact same finish that we got at WrestleMania. It's like, you know, like it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight to it, or either that or it's the Fiend coming back. Jesus Christ. But, you know, like I was like, oh, you know, like if that was a title change, you know, in the main event, then I'd be like, okay, I can live with that. But no title change in main event, and that finish they came up with for the tag team title match. No, I mean for the women's championship match. Not that the women's championship means anything right now because there's 4 women going for the singles title. But it's just endemic of how much the writing has. I mean, the writing was bad beforehand. I mean, you know, listen to post Raw, you know, pre-pandemic, we're still talking about the holes in the stories and how bad it was. But my God, I would run to August 2019 and just go back to those storylines to get out of what they've done to themselves. I mean, these are all self-inflicted wounds. It's like there was no crowd reaction that drove them to this. They did this to themselves. Yeah. They did this to themselves. This is death by 1,000 paper cuts. Crazy.
Yeah, and you would think after WrestleMania, where they had a crowd and they had an idea what the crowd thought about the characters and, you know, the wrestlers, you'd think that gives them an indication, that gives them an idea. Okay, well, you know, the fans cheered him, the fans didn't cheer this person, they like this, they hated that. It's as if it never happened. It's as if they finally got a reaction from the crowd after a year, and they didn't play off it. They didn't read it. They got nothing. And I would say this, and I know we mentioned it when we did the WrestleMania post show on night 1. We said, you know, the wrestlers, when there was the Jesus Christ, now I'm losing my words. We said when there was a freaking rain delay, there you go. When there was the rain delay and the wrestlers were backstage cutting a promo, they were cutting it on the fly, right? And for the most part, it did well. Well, shit, you saw how well it did. Maybe it didn't go perfectly for everyone, but you're in the Thunderdome. You're not going to get a live reaction. So why don't you let the wrestlers actually cut a promo? What's the worst thing that could happen? Because the shit going on now is much worse than anything that any of these guys could say off script. So play off that. Give these guys a chance. There's no audience. Let them play off the mic. Let them talk. Let them test out their skills and everything. They didn't do it.
I agree with that 100%. And instead they doubled down on the horrible promos.
It got worse.
It's just gotten worse. And oh my God, Jamel's asking whatever happened to Damian Priest. Another one. Oh, another victim of the Raw creative. You know, like this guy. I can't. Not that he was lighting my fire by any stretch, but they put some time into him, and now he's gone. I wonder if it had something to do with the zombie match.
I don't know, but see, no one could come out of that match looking good.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like they put him so piss poor that it's like, you know, whatever happened to Damian. I haven't thought about that guy in weeks.
Yeah, I completely forgot about him. And I was watching tonight, and I'm not joking. It wasn't until the end of the show. I'm like, no tag title matches at all. No tag matches, nothing at all. Instead, we got Seth versus Cesaro again, which was a good match. Don't get me wrong, but we got it again. We got Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn again. We got Lashley versus Drew McIntyre again. Yeah, we got Charlotte versus Rhea again. So literally every single match was something we've gotten at least 3 or 4 times in the past month.
And that's because quite literally there's nobody else for these people to face.
No. I mean, Jamel writes Miz died pretty much. Oh, he, you know.
Oh my God! Imagine this guy been with the company for 15 years, never sustained a serious injury. And he goes down in the zombie match. What? Yeah. I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror.
No. That's on them. You booked them in a match. I don't know how much they got paid for that match from that whatever the Walking Dead movie shit, whatever it was. I'm sure they got paid a decent amount. But why are you sacrificing Miz? And why are you putting him in there against someone that no one gives a flying fuck about in Damian Priest?
And that stretched out too long too. It's like, if you want to push Damian Priest, he did it at WrestleMania, and then the next night on the Raw after Mania, they should have just had Damian Priest beat them again. Instead, they had him lose. Like what was the point of teaming with Bad Bunny if not to make him into a star? And they have him losing the next night, and then just stuck in a pointless, endless feud with the Miz and John Morrison, Johnny fucking Drip. These are the best ideas that we have right now. This is the top of the line. This is the stuff that's making Vince McMahon laugh his tits off. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Johnny Drip. Come on. And then they're giving us finishes where, in a match with the women where stairs were used. Now, correct me if I'm fucking wrong, but stairs are a weapon. They're steel giant projectiles. Mm-hmm. And a table cover causes a DQ because she was taken off the tabletop and it hit Charlotte, and that was a DQ. And then Rhea Ripley tries to make it sound like she did it on purpose. I did. Oh, that was miserable.
Yeah. And credit, I don't know if it was planned for. I'm sure it was. Credit to Charlotte, where after the match he said, "Oh, you finally figured it out, bitch," and all that stuff. It's as if I got the impression that for whatever reason they tried to do like a double turn where Charlotte is suddenly babyface and Rhea Ripley's a heel. That's how they tried to make it sound off, or maybe it was just me, but it made no sense. There were so many ways they could have gone with the ending on this. If you want to do a DQ, do it, but not that way.
Right, they're so bipolar on Rhea Ripley. I don't know if you noticed this, but tonight the whoever was controlling the Thunderdome noise had them booing Rhea Ripley tonight. So, I don't even know. They screwed her up so badly. She has a unique look. You could have turned her into a unique character probably by letting her speak for herself, and instead she sounds just like every other dumbass on the friggin' roster. She has to sit there and smile and laugh and nothing serious and blah blah. It's like she's just another person on the roster with that unique look, with that great physique, with that great power. She could be something special, and they just turned her into another person on the roster. It's like I don't know how they think that they're storytellers or star makers, and they're just not. They haven't shown that in years.
No, legit. The only, in terms of the women on Raw, or maybe the women in general, but I guess Raw more, the only woman I could look at and say she has a unique character or maybe a different character is Asuka.
Yes,
because even Charlotte, Charlotte, probably the best one that they have on the show, but even her now is she just yells on the microphone. She yells for no reason.
Right.
Asuka, at least there's something to her. Everyone else, I don't care for. I honestly don't. Right. Like you said, they booked Rhea Ripley very poorly. Charlotte is reliable in the ring, and she'll always get you some good matches and everything else. Nikki Cross disappeared for like 6 months, and suddenly they tried making her a threat. And I'm sorry if I'm talent, and I'm happy that I was not able to get pinned in 2 minutes. What the fuck is that? Like, I'm booked in a position where people expect me to get pinned or submitted in 2 minutes.
Right. And if I don't, it's a miracle. It's like, wow, I want to get behind that. That sounds like a lot. That sounds like something I can connect with. Like, really, a loser like that. And then going back to Asuka, that she's like the one thing that came out of the pandemic that was like really good, because like when they were in those empty performance center with no noise, no people, making noise. She was like a built-in crowd, for every one of her matches. But you think before that, that's why the pandemic was such a success for her, because before that, she came in, a monster, and they gave her the rocket. She lost to Charlotte, and then couldn't find her way. Could not find her way on the roster, and then they put her with Paige and Kairi Sane, and did every single it's a foreigner. she's Japanese, green mist and kabuki, and they're the Kabuki Warriors. And it's like she was floundering in like this like weird heel role where, you know, she has to, like, you know, where you just have to play up, oh, she's Japanese, so we have to just do everything Japanese here. It's like, no, like Asuka is so much more than that, and she reinvented herself. And now that the pandemic is slowly coming to an end, they're also coming to an end on, you know, making her useful on the show. It's like it's got to be so disheartening, you know, when you build yourself up, you know, in spite of all the bad booking, and then they just do away with you anyway.
Yeah,
and that's how people.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's always kind of been the case with Asuka. Unfortunately,
right.
They'll build her up, they'll give her the title, and then they forget about her for several months.
And simply because they are not good with booking foreigners. They're just not. You know, if they're not American, you know, like they can't do it.
Look at Nakamura. You know, when they brought him in from NXT or wherever he was, they brought him up. Shit, he did well. He won the Royal Rumble. Yeah. Like that was huge. That was huge. His match at WrestleMania versus AJ, yeah, not the best, right? The whole low blow stuff, and then that was it. They stuck him in the low blow fucking finishes, and then they forgot about him. And now they're finally doing something with the crown and with Rick Boogs, and who knows how long that's gonna last.
Right. But I mean, think of how long he had to flounder on the roster before that started happening. You know, it's like the guy's been around for a good solid 3 years or 3.5 years. More. It's 2017 he debuted. So now,
the only way I could see any of this honestly changing is something that you mentioned earlier. You said ticket sales are not that high. You know, they were expecting them to do better. If you're hurting Vince's pockets through sales, maybe that's going to force him to change something up. If they see that no one's actually buying tickets.
Well, that's what I was hoping for, you know, on this past Monday's Raw. Like, you know, like show me something that you have some sort of pulse or some dignity. You know, like usually, like, you know, bad, you know, just even the sniff of a bad, you know, market in what's traditionally a strong market for them would, you know, they would just hot shot a whole bunch of angles on Raw to get people excited. And they did nothing like that. Now I'm holding out hope that tomorrow they'll do something, you know, heading into Money in the Bank and then setting up for SummerSlam as well. They have to they have to start pulling out some surprises. They really do. You know, it's like, you know, you maybe you save it for the first show back with the crowds, but by then it's like half the tickets are gone already. Is
it too late? That's the issue, and that's kind of what I'm waiting for too. I'm waiting for them to kind of like, okay, you know what? Pay-per-view's done, Hell in a Cell's done. Now we're really back not back. Now we're really into the fans are coming back season, because, you know, they're back in 3 weeks, 4 weeks at most. Yeah. So now it's kind of like, okay, well, ticket sales are down. You have your pay-per-view, that's over with. You could start fresh, like you said. Money in the Bank's coming up. If they show nothing this week, at least for Raw, I mean, SmackDown's not that bad, but if they show nothing for Raw this week, then there's no way they're going to sell out whatever they're trying to sell out. Absolutely no way.
I don't see it. Yeah, I just don't see it. And I don't. And looking at that Raw roster, I don't know what they can do with it. I have no clue. And now getting back to the show a little bit here, you know, like, you know, even like they've think of how much goodwill that they've lived off of. They continue to live off their past in some way to sell their wares. You know, like they lived off their legends forever. You know, literally until the Undertaker could not move anymore. They carted that guy out to the ring. If he couldn't walk down the 90-foot ramp at WrestleMania, you know, 33, or I think, was it? It's 33, the one that was supposed to be his first retirement match with Roman Reigns. They just slide him down there on a skiff. You know, it's like, all right, he can't walk, we'll skiff him down. You know, it's and they did that for so long. You know, like they used McFoley and Sacco forever until like, oh, well, the guy has serious head damage. Oh, can't use him anymore. It's Stone Cold until his neck gave out. You know, it's like Sting until his neck gave out. Like, you know, they've used all legends to try to get their stuff across. And now we're basically out of legends. You know, we have Goldberg floating around doing 2 matches a year. It's like, whatever. He's not really a needle mover anymore. So we have to go to the gimmicks now. The gimmicks that worked in the past, tried and true. Hell in a Cell, getting back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show, Roy, like what there was a time when you would hear Hell in a Cell. And it's like,
You
like
get excited.
You hear the date and you're counting the days.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like even just a few years ago. No, not really a few years ago. God damn, it's almost 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
For WrestleMania 28, Triple H and the Undertaker. Now that was the same show with the Rock and John Cena, but the show that got me to fly. The match that got me to fly out to Miami. The promo that did it was Triple H challenging the Undertaker to a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania 28. Roy, I'm not kidding. I had just gotten like a refund check from college, and I probably could use that to just like put towards my loans immediately. I swear to God, I hopped onto like Expedia that night and booked my flight to Florida because I wanted to be there for that match. That's the reason why I was with Adam down, like Adam and Doug down there in Miami, because of that promo. Because it wasn't just the promo, it was like the whole rivalry was really wonderfully done, and it was Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
And it sold me to the point where I just bought a ticket like almost literally after that promo was over. I was on the computer getting a ticket because I had to be there to see it. And now it's like Hell in a Cell was today. I honest to God
cares.
I could try, but I don't know if I could care any less than I did today.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could be any less excited. And it's because they have just taken this gimmick and just beaten it to death. They've painted the fucking cage red. They've taken away just anything that's like nostalgic about it. It's just like they're shoehorning matches into Hell in a Cell that don't need to be in Hell in a Cell. And then on top of that, it never recovered from that Seth Rollins Fiend Hell in a Cell.
Oh God!
Where it ended in no
contest. Yeah, that was the first time we had the cell in red.
Right. Yes, it was, and the entire arena was in red, and it was like, my God, it's like for all those people that think that going back on the road they're just going to stop doing the Alexa Bliss stuff. The Fiend was completely obnoxious way before the pandemic, but it just got worse. So I don't think that they're just going to just up and stop all this stuff. But even like Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns in 2018 for the Universal title, everybody forgets about that because Roman was diagnosed with leukemia shortly after that. But that was an abomination of a match because Brock Lesnar came back, ripped the door off the cage, and Hell in a Cell ends in no contest. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. And
then a no contest a year after that. And then it's just like, Hell in a Cell, this one's with Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. The entire reason that Drew wanted it was because Hell in a Cell guarantees no interference. And how does the fucking match end? Interference. They killed the gimmick.
Yeah, they really did. And I want to talk a little bit about the match because for the most part, I thought it was a good match. I thought it was a very physical match.
Yes.
And the second the referee got knocked down, you just knew there was gonna something was gonna happen, right? Some interference, and then they got the ref in and MVP and this and that. But it kind of got me thinking because they pushed McIntyre very well in 2020. They really booked him properly. The feud with Randy Orton, I loved. Yes, he lost to Orton, and he lost Orton at Hell in a Cell and everything. But now it's kind of gotten to the point with McIntyre where he's losing every big match.
Right.
And he doesn't need to. I get it. They're building Lashley up to be this unstoppable guy, and I like it. So I am behind that. But sometimes it's just to the point where it's kind of like, okay, you're pushing Lashley to no end. That's great. But at the same time, I'm not going to say you're burying McIntyre because you're not, but you're kind of making him lose every single big match that he has. The triple threat last month at, what was it, Backlash or whatever it was, he lost. WrestleMania, lost. Tonight, lost. They either keep him away from Lashley and rebuild him or have him win because they're not doing a good job with Drew right now. No,
they're not. And again, it's like, you knew as soon as the referee got taken out exactly what the finish was going to be.
Yeah.
MVP gets in the cage. It's like he's losing. Obviously, he's losing. They're going back on the road. There's every single one of these shows has a heel that doesn't really sell much and just dominates people for the most part. Now, Lashley did look vulnerable at many points tonight, and they did a good job making Drew look like a monster in defeat. But he still lost with a cradle, of all things, interference, another dumb face, getting beat, just because he can't, I got my foot got pulled. Oh, it's like, oh, the humanity, it's now they're going on the road with Roman Reigns, who there's quite literally nobody active on the roster right now that I believe can beat him or touch him, anything. And then on Raw, Bobby Lashley. What's next for Bobby Lashley? The Fiend, probably. And God, that's just not going to do it. It's just not. Now, if they can pull a big surprise and do Brock Lesnar versus Lashley, which I think a lot of people wanted to see for a long time for whatever reason. I don't know how great it'll be, but I could definitely see them doing that. Kofi maybe as the next opponent.
Yeah.
They've been doing good promos with MVP and Kofi, but again, Kofi's not going to win.
No, and the only one that's a legitimate threat is Brock Lesnar.
Right,
because
somebody who's not on the roster.
Yeah,
he's not active on the roster.
No,
so it's like they have this whole entire roster of people that we've been just sitting around with, and they haven't done shit with them to make them believable. It's like. I could absolutely see why they moved Rey and Roman to SmackDown, because the finish was never, ever in question, number one. And number two, 3 Hell in a Cell matches was too much. I think it was way better to have Bianca and Bayley in the Hell in a Cell on this show than, getting, inundated with like Roman and Rey kicking off the show. It wouldn't have been half as good.
No. And, you mentioned they haven't really built or pushed anyone that could be a credible threat. On SmackDown, they tried and they were pushing, and I think they're going to continue doing it with Big E. Because at one point, they had Big E and they were building him up, the IC title and everything. Then they had him lose to Apollo Crews, and that's cool. But even him, it's like, hey, and the fans like him. The fans Big E, the fans like New Day. So maybe if they do this whole draft shit or, something with the brand split, you send Big E to Raw, him and Kofi, maybe you have that feud between Big E and Apollo and Lashley. That's the only thing, believe it or not, that comes to mind when I'm thinking who could actually knock Lashley down aside from Brock Lesnar is maybe Big E if you bring him from SmackDown. That's the only guy, because it's not going to be Orton. They have him stuck with Riddle.
Exactly. So, they can get through Money in the Bank now. Of course, the question is going to be who's going to win Money in the Bank, because that's, even that gimmick's like, I'm getting really, really tired of that one too.
Yeah.
I could absolutely see Damian Priest getting the win, and maybe Keith Lee coming back and getting the win, but even that's not. It's just not going to get anybody excited. Look what they did to Money in the Bank. Otis had it, and then he didn't have it anymore. It's like,
and then it was the Miz.
What's the point of winning the Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Nothing at all. And again, I used to love the Money in the Bank gimmick. I really did. I remember it used to be almost an annual thing where at WrestleManias, it was, hey, WrestleMania, you get that one match and you're looking forward to it because you're like, okay, who's going to win it? And then it got its own pay-per-view. Elimination Chamber, same thing. Hell in a Cell, same thing. And it's not working anymore. It's not working. And now you're getting to the point where you can't rely on those big matches or those stipulations to get people interested because you're doing them every month. And you can't rely on your talent either because you're not pushing anyone properly. And the creative is so bad. They've really cornered themselves in such a way that I really think for them to recover, it's going to take them at least a year before they could build guys up and do something.
I think even longer. I think that to fully recover from this pandemic, you're going to need to cycle out all of these people that they've damaged irreparably. And it's going to take a long time to do that, because you have to also replace them with something that, is better. And I'm telling you now, There's nothing at the NXT level that's any better than
No.
what they get from Raw right now.
No.
And even if there was something that was better on NXT, they're gonna fuck it up when it gets called up. They just are, because this is the worst creative team in the history of professional wrestling.
It's difficult to even call it creative.
I know. It's like the anti-creative team.
Yeah, and Daniel brings up a good point. Is Sheamus on Raw?
Oh, he got his face busted up.
Yeah, with the nose, right? But that gives you an idea right there. So if Sheamus, who's holding the mid card, right, the United States title, he's holding it pretty well on his own. If you lose Sheamus, a guy who is closer to retirement than he is to his prime, and I'm not knocking Sheamus because I'm a fan of his, but if you lose a guy like Sheamus, and your mid card level is hurting that bad, what are you even doing, creatively speaking?
I know.
You're not doing anything. It's horrible.
And look at the guys he's going against: Humberto Carrillo, Mansoor, who now hasn't been seen in a while, and
Ricochet.
It's like, man, like, and then what's after them? After he vanquishes them, nobody.
Nothing. Remember those Mustafa Ali promos from like a year and a half ago, before Retribution? They tried to make him look like a badass. They did nothing.
Oh, yeah. They drop everything because, when you're booking things, on the fly, things get lost in the shuffle, and even things that people get excited about, they just get lost because there's just too much stuff going on.
Yeah,
it's it's a mess, and I think Jamel hit it right on the head over here. Change in leadership is what's needed. New voices are needed. And I don't think that change of leadership is going to come, from Vince McMahon. I think his mother's 102 years old. I think he's going to live for a long time. And of course we don't want anything to happen to Vince McMahon. I would love for him to step down. But Bruce Pritchard, he ain't shit, and he's not cutting it. And it's like he's there because Vince has just insulated himself with just people that just say yes to every whim that he has, and that's bad. And somebody, somebody on the board of directors, shareholders should get on those fucking phone conferences that they do 4 times a year and demand change.
So I was, to add to what you're talking about regarding the change, I was watching, I'm not sure if you were at that part yet, Mick Foley's Broken Skull sessions, the part where Austin gives him the championship belt. Have you seen that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Foley comments, and Austin he said, I agree. Foley said, I prefer this to what we have now. The WWE logo on the belt is too big. And I get it. Everything is corporate. And when you're branding something, when you're branding your company, you want your brand to stand out. You want that WWE logo to stand out. But by doing that, you're not showing any character. There's nothing. And that's what I loved about the 90s, as goofy as it was. And that's what I loved about the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression, is you had characters and not everything was alike. Now the title belts are alike. The commentators are all bland, save for Pat McAfee.
Right. They'll get him. They'll get him
eventually. The talents all have the same moveset.
Yep.
Nothing is working for this company, and I'm really trying not to shit on this because I know this is the post show for Hell in a Cell, but it's difficult to look at this show and think long term what they're gonna do. I love, like I said, Bianca Belair versus Bayley. I thought the match was excellent, but where do you go from here? Because we've gotten this feud twice in the past 6 months. Seth Rollins, Cesaro. Good match. I don't want to see this match anymore. We've gotten it since around February. And I'm not complaining in the sense of, I love to see long feuds and I'm being a hypocrite. No, I love to see long feuds and long drawn out feuds, 6 months, 8 months. I have no problem with that. My problem is when everything is the same. Characters, I'm not invested in the characters. Why should I be invested in the storyline? Well,
and then even the people telling you about the storyline is supposed to be selling you on them don't even know what the hell they're talking about sometimes. Yeah. It's like it's maddening. Like you got this guy, Jimmy Smith on Raw,
the power bomb on his back.
Yeah, one of his big calls tonight was power directly on his back. We're all up on his back. It's like, yes, that's how a powerbomb works, Jimmy. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, it's a fucking move that's been around for 60 years. Like we have guys now calling this stuff that don't know shit about professional wrestling, and again, that just goes back to Vince hates wrestling, and they think that they can just reinvent the wheel here. We don't need the classic wrestling commentator anymore. That's that hillbilly white trash stuff. We're going to bring in somebody sophisticated who does 17,000 shows and doesn't know anything about a product, because I prefer them not to know anything about wrestling. Just sell, sell, sell. Yeah, well, maybe that works for you, Vince. When you're just sitting there in your isolated bubble with Bruce having his hand down your pants and telling you everything's going great. But for the fucking people that are still watching your albatross of a fucking show, it's not working out.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, he's surrounded by yes men, and they got that big contract from Fox. They got the money from the USA Network.
Yep,
they're
they're going to get another big contract too, and they'll just keep getting rewarded because television companies are also in a struggle to survive against streaming networks like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. Yeah, exactly. They're trying to survive. So, what can we do? Live football. Soccer. Baseball, live events where it's like you have to watch it, and if you hear the results later, it kind of spoils it for you. You have to just watch it live. You need destination television. You can't have football on, you can't have baseball on 52 weeks a year, but you can have wrestling, and by God, it's white trash bingo hole bullshit. It's like, I don't care how much they dress up this show, it's still professional wrestling, it's still a niche, but they want live content now. And WWE is just the last thing standing that can
last resort.
So they'll throw money at them and just put them in a dead slot on Friday or USA Network. They're just so happy to have WWE because they have no better content. Their original programming isn't, and they never recovered from not having Monk and Psych. It's like they tried, but they really it just hasn't happened. So wrestling is it. So they'll throw money at WWE to keep them on USA Network. So they'll continue to get rewarded. They will continue to get rewarded, but eventually it'll dry up. Eventually TV will find its way, and they won't need wrestling anymore, and they will have killed themselves so badly that it's just, like I think we're seeing the death spiral of professional wrestling as a genre in general.
See, and you bring up a valid point, and I'm going to ask you a question because I thought of this literally as you were talking.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. No, perfect. If you're in the 70s, okay, go back to the 70s, or let's say 80s. If you're a kid in the 80s, right, you're watching professional wrestling. Shit, I want to be Hulk Hogan. I want to be Randy Savage. I want to be Ricky Steamboat. I want to be whatever. You grew up in the 90s. I want to be Bret Hart. I want to be someone like The Undertaker, Sting, whatever it is. 2000s, John Cena, The Rock, Austin, everything. If you're a kid now watching wrestling, right, who are you looking up to say, I want to be like that guy? Do you really want to be like Bobby Lashley? And again, I'm not trying to hate on anyone, but do you really want to be like Bobby Lashley? Do you want to be like Drew McIntyre? Do you want to be like Sheamus? Roman Reigns, maybe? You get what I mean? So
yeah,
in 10, 20, 30 years' time, the kids that are watching now, who are they going to base themselves off to? Who's going to say, I want to get into professional wrestling? Is my question.
Right. Who's getting into professional wrestling watching this and saying, oh, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
That's who I want to be.
Are you going to watch AEW and be like, oh, shit, I want to be like Sting, who was around 30 years ago, or Jericho, or
right, and some of the women getting into professional wrestling now, that are in NXT, they would have been, let's say that they're, born around 2002, 2003, they wouldn't be old enough to remember Trish Stratus and Lita and stuff like that. But who do they say, was their main influences getting into professional wrestling? Those names, not Kelly Kelly, not Maria Kanellis, not like, the names that they would have grown up with, but like Trish. And it's like, and it's forever like that. Like I think as it goes on, I think people are always going to go back to the past and like, oh, I want to be like they were,
of course.
But they're not really looking at how it is now. But like even WWE again trying to reinvent what they're doing. They're trying to sign more pro athletes that know nothing about wrestling so they can recreate them in their own image of what they want wrestling to be.
Yeah,
it's going to die. It's going to die. In our lifetime, it will go down. I believe it. I believe it.
I don't know.
How's that for positivity?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the show. We'll wrap things up because I think it's a lot. You have Raw tomorrow night. So you got to save your breath.
I got to save my negativity.
You got to save because if you're looking at it, you got to do Alexa Bliss again tomorrow. You got to do Charlotte and Rhea again tomorrow. And I don't know what else is on the show. You got to do Bobby Lashley versus I don't even know who they're going to book him against.
To be clear, I don't have to do anything. I think I'm gonna go on. I think I'm just gonna click start broadcast. I'm gonna eat like a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles and not say fucking.
It'll still be more entertaining than what's on Raw.
Yeah, absolutely.
More entertaining. But look, I'm gonna try and end this on. We'll try and end this on a positive note, on a high note, and not on wrestling is near its death and it's on its deathbed.
Right. No, before you even do that,
yes.
I do want to say that as shit as Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre's finish was, goddamn, like the match was so hard hitting and like they worked their asses off. I can't discount what they did in that match. I don't want to discount what they did. So I mean, I really enjoyed the match, but as soon as the referee went down, you knew exactly what was going to happen because they're the laziest booking fucks on the earth. But they're so lucky that they have like the talent that they do, because that's another thing that keeps them afloat too, is that the level of talent in there is high. And as much shit as they give them, for promos and stuff like that, when that fake bell rings, they can deliver, in the ring and put out a halfway decent product that, kind of gives them some respect in some cases. Yeah. That's funny. Okay, sorry, Bray.
No, literally, that's actually what I was going to talk about, because I was going to say, despite the fact, no, but it's cool. I was going to say, despite the fact that the ending sucked, the match was actually good, and I was holding out hope that they would not get MVP to, directly interfere. I thought it was cool what they did with the cane. He passed it to Lashley. It was clever. Mm-hmm. And at one point when they had McIntyre in the corner with the cane, I thought that was cool. So when that happened, in my head, I'm like, okay, so they're actually going to keep this one-on-one inside the cell. We're not going to get an interference. Obviously that didn't happen. But there were some nasty bumps. There were really some nasty bumps. What's it called? The white noise from McIntyre on the steps.
That looked painful. That looked really
bad.
Really nasty.
That looked bad. The table bumps, both table bumps. The one where McIntyre was chokeslammed off the ring apron. Then the other one where he, went backwards and Lashley fell through the table. It was cool. The kendo sticks, the marks on McIntyre's back. Shit.
Yeah. He actually has a picture of that up on his Twitter right now, of his battle scars. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, it's they worked hard. They took the bumps, and that's kind of what, I'm not going to say what angers me, but kind of what disappoints me, because not only us as fans, I think we deserve better, and I'm not trying to say we're entitled to whatever it is, but the talent deserve better than that. At least the ending.
They work their asses off for that's his back. It's going to be hard for him to lay on his back tonight to go to sleep.
Of course.
And he did all that for that finish.
That's it.
That's some real dedication. Or he's a masochist. I'm not quite sure.
No, I like McIntyre. I really do. Like, I've watched his interviews, and you could tell he loves the business. He said the amount of times him and Sheamus would watch Bret Hart matches, and he tries to emulate and this and that. So he's a fan of the business. Grew up watching it, and you can tell. I mean, shit, you don't go through what you just showed on screen. You don't go through all that just for money. You get what I mean? Like, to a certain degree, there's passion, and it's kind of like these guys are already limited. There's no fans, there's no audience. They're working their asses off, him and Lashley, and the talent in general. And you throw that kind of like elementary style booking, and sometimes elementary booking is fine because it works. But in this case, it was so poor, and you pull that off. Like, How could morale not be up? How could morale not be down after that?
Right. And elementary booking, for again, going back to that stupid Raw Women's Championship match, that's below elementary. That's like grade school level booking. That's like, and the idea was immediately shot to hell because they used steel steps in the same match and there was no DQ there. But anyway, I could understand that, for like that match, but like with Hell in a Cell, it's like it used to be special.
Yeah.
Like you gotta put a little more effort into that finish. You have to put a little more effort in that finish. Like I thought, part of my mindset, because I'm the eternal optimist. I think when I watch the product, when I'm actually physically watching the television show, I'm optimistic about what I hope will happen. So it's like the referee gets knocked down, MVP comes in, he gets taken out by McIntyre. I'm like, oh, the cell door's open. They can climb up to the top of the cell. McIntyre can hit him with the Claymore kick on top of the cell and pin him. That's been done. It's been done before, but that would be an emphatic statement, right? And like that would turn everything around. You'd have a face champion, instead of 3 heels, because NXT also has a heel who does the exact same stuff that Roman and Lashley do, where it's like he's a big guy who can't get beat, and there's nobody left on the roster that could face him, because he's beaten everybody. He just won a 5-way, Karrion Kross did on the NXT Takeover show, and he beat Finn Balor. Beat the best out of him. It's like there's no other people for him to face. So it's like, what do you do with Karrion Kross? Now we have 3 of those champions. So it's like, okay, maybe they'll put the title on McIntyre, and that'll be good for those ticket sales that they're trying to make. At least one face champion. That's that's a start. But no, instead, it's like they gave us that. It's like there was you still hold out hope that it's Hell in a Cell. They'll be creative, and they weren't. All the creativity was used in the opening match.
I'll be honest. At least it could have been worse. At least we didn't get the Fiend come out from under the ring or something after the match.
I thought that was going to happen too.
Yeah. At least we didn't get that. So let's count our blessings in that sense. But it does leave us wondering what the hell's going to happen for tomorrow night. Who's going to challenge Lashley? Are we going to get McIntyre, like you said? That's going to become that whiny baby face that's going to say, I got screwed, I got this, I got that. Are we going to get that, or are we actually going to get Kofi Kingston or someone else up against Bobby Lashley?
And then if it is Kofi Kingston, what does Drew McIntyre do? There's quite literally nobody else for him to face.
No. And you need him. You have to keep him on TV. It's not like you could give him a rest, because
he is a star. Yeah.
He's a star, and fans are coming back.
Yep.
Fans are coming back. That note, Mike, one last question for you. One last question to everybody in the chat. Are you giving this a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Jeez. The match was so good for Hell in a Cell, and I really like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but just the laziest booking imaginable for the show. I got to give it a thumbs down. I just do. It's just it's a tough one. That was tough, but Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler really that put it over for me, because that's the worst shit that I've seen in professional wrestling.
That's fair. I get that. I'm trying not to go with how I felt after the pay-per-view finished, because I think if we got a proper finish, I'd obviously be happier and everything. I'm still gonna go with a thumbs up, just because we had some good matches. The opening match was good. The main event was good despite the finish. I thought Cesaro Rollins was fine. Obviously Owens and Sami Zayn. So I thought the positives outweighed the negatives, although it was pretty damn close. It was pretty damn close, especially with the ending that we got. Let's take a look at the chat. We got a couple people here. Here we go. Oof. Yeah. Daniel says thumbs down, don't give a shit. Jamel, thumbs down for lazy booking. Andrew, thumbs up, even though 2 bad matches. Yeah, I could see why people would give this show a thumbs down. I could easily see that.
Me too.
I'm not going to argue and pretend it was good or great by any means, but I totally get it. On that note, Mike, you're here tomorrow night. You and Victoria?
I will be here. We'll be doing it. Yep.
All right. So if you guys don't want to sit through Raw, which I'm not saying I would blame you, but if you guys don't want to sit through Raw, then definitely sit through the Raw post show. Mike, Victoria, following Raw, You're gonna get the rants. You're gonna get some Miz love from Victoria,
Yes.
assuming he's on the show. And you know what? It's the build up to the fans being back. So hopefully, it's a start of a good new beginning. Hopefully,
I hope so. I really do. I really do. I'm the eternal optimist. I think they'll have a good summer. I'm hoping that SummerSlam will have some surprises. I really,
hopefully.
And watch it'll be Bill Goldberg. It'll be Bill Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley. Watch, just watch.
No, I'll say Lesnar. I think they try and put Goldberg. Oh no, they did Goldberg and Roman already, didn't they? Fuck. Yeah, it might be Goldberg. Did they? No, it was Goldberg McIntyre.
Goldberg McIntyre. Yeah, they didn't do Goldberg Reigns yet.
I confused the big tall guys with long black hair and beards.
Right. I mean, Goldberg has one more match left this year.
Roman at SummerSlam, so I got to sit through Goldberg. No, it's not going to be you. I think we got Lesnar versus Lashley. I think that's what we got.
We'll see. I mean, I think Brock likes being on the ranch. We'll see what happens.
There you go. And you know what? There you go, Andrew. That's one way of putting it. Thumbs up for the last pay-per-view in the Thunderdome.
Yes. Amen to that.
Hopefully,
amen
yes.
to that.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, we're much more positive than we are negative tonight. Mike is here on Mondays. It is true. Mike is here on Mondays with Victoria. I'm here on Fridays for the post SmackDown show. We're here on pay-per-views. Fans are coming back. We're hopefully going to get a bit more excited and better content, at least, to talk about. Fingers crossed, Mike. Absolutely. And that's it. My name is Roy Nemer of Wrestleview.com. I was joined by the one and only, the living legend himself, Mr. Mike Tedesco, who's here tomorrow night. So make sure to check him out. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for joining. We're here tomorrow, and hopefully it's going to be a better show. Let's put it that way.
I hope so.
Hopefully. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one.
Thanks, Roy. See you later, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Mike.